Today, we are going to do a deep dive into the code that runs your life. And I'm not talking about code on a computer, I'm talking about the code inside your head. We're going to look at the internal beliefs that quietly, behind the scenes, shape every single one of your external results. You know the feeling, right? You have a goal, you've got the desire, but when it's actually time to do the thing, it feels like you're wading through concrete. It's this super common frustration, that feeling of being stuck, knowing you can do more, but you're just held back by some kind of invisible force.
Let's really lean into this analogy for a minute. Just think of your mind as a computer. We so often think the answer is just more willpower, just hitting the enter key harder and harder. But here's the thing. If the underlying software is buggy, it doesn't matter how hard you smash that key. The real fix is to actually upgrade the system itself.
Okay, so where do we even begin? Well, we go right to the core of it all, the central processor. This is all about the foundational beliefs you have about your own power and your own potential. And there are two ideas here that are just absolutely critical to get. First up is something called your locus of control. Basically, do you believe you're the one at the steering wheel of your life, or are you just a passenger along for the ride? An internal locus means you feel like you're the one making things happen. An external locus, on the other hand, makes you feel like life just happens to you. Now, this isn't about blame. It's just about where you think your power really lies. And building right on top of that is the second key concept, your mindset. This is based on Carol Dweck's amazing research. So, a fixed mindset says, look, I'm either good at this or I'm not. End of story. But a growth mindset, it says, you know what? I can get better at this if I put in the effort. One sees a challenge as a threat, like a test they might fail. The other sees that exact same challenge as the only way to improve.
All right, so that's how we see ourselves. But the next layer of our mental software is all about how we see the world around us. Is it a place of limits or is it a place of opportunity? The default setting for a really healthy mental OS is what we call an abundance mindset. This is that core belief that someone else's win doesn't mean you lose. It's this idea that the pie of success isn't a fixed size. It can actually grow, and there's enough for everyone. And on the flip side, of course, you've got this scarcity mindset. This is the mental software that's just constantly scanning for threats, constantly looking for competition. It makes you hoard information, it sees every situation as a zero-sum game, and it gives you that little pang of anxiety whenever a friend or a coworker does well. Honestly, it's a super stressful way to live because it's all coming from a place of fear. But what if we could actually use those feelings of scarcity as a tool? That's the real power behind this idea from Samara Rolston. Instead of feeling all that shame around jealousy, what if you saw it as a compass? It's literally your brain pointing at something and saying, hey, I want that. And just like that, you reframe a painful emotion into really powerful data about what you truly desire. So let's say you've got the right core beliefs, you've got the right worldview, but you're still not taking action. Why? Well, it's because most of our systems have this one really common bug, a little glitch in the code that just stops us cold. And we all know it. We call it procrastination. This might be the single most important idea in this whole section. We've been told our entire lives that procrastinating is a character flaw, right? That it's a sign of laziness. But modern psychology says that's just wrong. It's actually an emotional regulation problem. When a task makes us feel bad, maybe bored, anxious, insecure, our brain's number one priority is to stop feeling bad right now. And this shows exactly how that trap works. So, a tough task triggers a negative feeling. Your brain, trying to protect you, looks for a quick fix. Scrolling social media, grabbing a snack. You get that little dopamine hit, and for a second, you feel better. The problem is, you've just taught your brain that the best way to handle that bad feeling is to avoid the task altogether. And so the cycle just gets stronger and stronger. And underneath all of this is this fascinating little quirk of our brains called temporal discounting. Basically, your brain is just terrible at valuing the future. The satisfaction of finishing a big project a week from now, it feels kind of vague, really distant. But the pleasure of watching one more funny video right now, oh, that feels real, it feels certain. So your brain consistently chooses the immediate reward, even when it's much, much smaller. Okay,
We've diagnosed the system, we understand the core beliefs, we see the common bugs. Now, it's time for the upgrade. How do we install new software that actually helps us hit our goals?
And remember what we said before, just hitting enter harder doesn't work. We need a smarter strategy, one that works with our brain's weird little quirks instead of constantly fighting against them. We need a tool that sees that procrastination glitch coming and makes a plan for it ahead of time.
And that's where the WHOOP method comes in. It's a super simple, science-backed four-step process. You start with your wish, your goal, and the best possible outcome. But then, and this is the absolute game changer, you identify the main obstacle that's going to get in your way. Finally, you make a specific plan, a simple if-then statement for how you'll deal with that obstacle the second it pops up. And look, this isn't just some nice self-help idea. It is backed by solid science. A huge analysis of over 20 studies found that using this strategy gives you a consistent, measurable boost to achieving your goals. So, what does this number mean? It means the effect is significant and it's reliable. This is a proven upgrade, not just wishful thinking.
All right, now for the second tool in our upgrade kit. While Whoop is amazing for tackling specific goals, we also need a strategy for long-term sustainable change. And as psychotherapist Amy Morin says, trying to do a massive overhaul of your entire life all at once, well, that's usually just a recipe for failure. And this slide really lays out the two paths we can take. The big overhaul, that's your classic New Year's resolution that you've totally abandoned by January 18th. But the tiny habits approach, that focuses on changes that are so small they're almost impossible not to do. Just remember this, consistency will always beat intensity. One small action every single day builds momentum that a huge one-time effort never ever can.
Whew, we have covered a lot of ground, from our deepest core beliefs all the way to our daily actions. So let's bring it all together and just summarize what our new upgraded mental operating system really looks like. So here it is, the cheat sheet for your new software. The foundation, a belief in your own power and your ability to grow. Your worldview, it's one of opportunity, not limitation. You finally understand that procrastination bug for what it is, an emotional trigger, and you have two powerful tools, Whoop and Tiny Habits, to help you overcome it. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to this one simple idea. The life you have right now is a direct printout of the system running in your mind. If you want to change the printout, you can't just wish it were different. You have to go into the code, into those internal beliefs, and install the upgrade yourself. And that's our explainer. So, I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. I'm not talking about a big overhaul, not some massive change, just the smallest possible upgrade. What's one tiny shift you can make right now today?